So, back in early 2026, the precious metals market didn't just get volatile, it got hit by a shockwave that basically reset the entire landscape. We're going to break down the three key forces that drove this historic crisis and really explore what it means for the future of gold and silver. And look, this isn't just a story about numbers on a screen, it's a look at the very foundations of our financial system. So, picture this. February 2nd, 2026. The market just goes into a free fall. Gold absolutely craters, plunging from a peak of nearly $5,600 an ounce down to just over $4,400. And silver? It got hit even harder, falling from over $121 to nearly $71 an ounce. It was its worst single day in history. This was a massive washout that just vaporized weeks of gains in a matter of hours. But what was behind it all? So the big question is, what on earth caused this collapse? Well, it wasn't just some random fluke. It was really a technical reset after this huge run-up. The market had gotten way too speculative, way too over-leveraged, and frankly, it was due for a correction. Three major forces were really at play here, and we're going to break them down one by one. Okay, so the first piece of this puzzle was what you can only call a perfect storm of geopolitical risk that just gripped the world in January of 2026, creating this intense flight to safety. And what's just wild about this is the speed at which all this happened. I mean, first, boom, tensions between the US and the EU just skyrocket over Greenland sovereignty. Then, the Maduro regime in Venezuela is decapitated, which leads to direct US involvement. And then, to top it all off, US forces down an Iranian drone right before nuclear talks were supposed to happen. Any one of these events would be a major shock. But all of them together? It was a recipe for chaos that sent investors running for the safety of gold. But, geopolitics was only one part of the equation. There was this other, more structural force at play, something that had been quietly reshaping the gold market for years. I'm talking about central banks. For years now, central banks all over the world, especially in emerging markets, have been on an absolute gold buying spree. They're diversifying their reserves, moving away from relying 100% on currencies like the dollar, and building up their stashes of a neutral physical asset. And we are not talking chump change here. This is a fundamental shift in how the global financial system works. So, to put this in perspective, just how much gold are we talking about? Think about it. For over a decade, they were averaging around 473 tons a year. Then, suddenly, that number explodes past 1,000 tons annually. This created a massive, and I mean massive, new source of demand that the market just wasn't ready for. And the really crucial thing to get here is that this isn't just one or two big players. The buying is coming from everywhere. In 2025, you had Poland leading the pack, with countries like Kazakhstan and Brazil also buying up huge amounts. Oh, and China's central bank? It increased its holdings for 14 months in a row. This kind of consistent, price-insensitive buying, but incredible pressure on the physical supply. Okay, so all of this demand, it created what was basically a ticking time bomb. In a part of the market most of us never even think about, the physical delivery system. Where the paper promises are actually supposed to turn into real physical metal. The best way to think about the gold market is like an iceberg. The paper market, that's all your futures contracts and ETFs, that's the part you see above the water. It's liquid, it's easy to trade, but the physical market, for the actual bars and coins, that's the massive, hidden part of the iceberg below the surface. And in 2026, boy, were the cracks starting to show between the two. All this stress leads to this super rare but incredibly important condition called backwardation. This is a major, major red flag. It means the price for getting physical gold right now is higher than the price for getting it delivered in the future. It's basically the market screaming at the top of its lungs that there isn't enough physical metal to go around. And this wasn't just some abstract concept. You could see it in the real world. The London Bullion Market Association, which is like the heart of the whole global market, reported that delivery times for physical gold had stretched out to 8 weeks. 8! Which is just insane when you consider that settlement is usually next day. The system was grinding to a halt. And at the exact same time, you had investors yanking physical metal out of warehouses like there was no tomorrow. Registered gold stocks at the COMEX exchange in New York dropped by a staggering 1.5 million ounces in just 8 trading days. People didn't want the paper anymore, they wanted the real thing. So let's recap. You've got geopolitical fear, you've got massive central bank buying, and you've got this physical squeeze, all coming together to create this huge bubble that just popped. But hold on, the story does not end there. In fact, what happened next is maybe the most important part of this whole thing. See, that crash, it basically cleansed all the speculative froth out of the market. But the fundamental story hadn't changed one bit. So what happened? Prices immediately and aggressively snapped back. Why? Because the big players, the ones who understood the physical tightness, they rushed right back in to buy the dip. That powerful V-shaped recovery tells you everything. The long-term drivers are stronger than ever. This whole episode got a lot of industry insiders really worried. People like Seamus Donoghue basically sounded the alarm, saying that the underlying infrastructure, the very plumbing of the wholesale market, is broken. It just can't keep up. And let me tell you, when the plumbing of a multi-trillion-dollar market starts to fail, that's a huge problem. Which really brings us to the big, scary question. Is the very foundation of this market starting to crack? The events of 2026 exposed some serious vulnerabilities. Were they just a temporary glitch? Or are we seeing the first signs of a permanent structural breakdown? And that forces all of us to think about the risks going forward. I mean, if getting your hands on physical metal becomes even harder, what does that do to the price of gold? And maybe more importantly, what does it mean for your confidence in the whole system? This isn't a theoretical question anymore. It's the central challenge facing the market, and the answer could have a profound impact on all of us. Look, we're going to be tracking all of this very, very closely. So if you want to stay ahead of the curve on this and other huge economic shifts, do us a favor and subscribe to the channel. And hey, don't forget to like and share this explainer. Your support really helps us keep bringing you this kind of in-depth analysis. Thanks for sticking with us.